And hope you're having a wonderful day all across East Tennessee. Cassie, Nall, meteorologist Todd, Howell here again. Time for 10 Weather Chat. And Cassie, when we last left you, not a whole lot's changed. We're still in desperate need of rain. We've got some good news hopefully down the road, but let's dive right in, jump right to it. We have updated information with the drought monitor. You did a great interview with some folks at TVA talking about the lake levels and the need for rain and implications and all that. Temperatures next week, they get chilly. We're going to dive in and get to all those details, but I believe we're going to start with
the drought monitor.
The drought monitor,
yeah.
Yes.
Unfortunately, as expected, I should say,
yes.
The drought conditions did worsen across our viewing area. The first graphic that I have for you is a comparison of last week to this week. So on the right is going to be last week.
Nice reveal, by the way.
Thank you so much. And then on the left, that is our latest drought monitor. So the first thing that we noticed is that gray circle, which is just our base map, it meant that there was no highlighting there.
Right.
Has filled in.
Yep.
So that yellow area is a precursor to drought. It's abnormally dry conditions.
Right. We could see this coming. It was holding on for a few weeks, but
filled in. Yep. And then we have basically a lot of other areas went up by a level. So the plateau went from having moderate conditions to now severe drought conditions.
Yeah.
The Southern Valley is now completely in severe drought conditions. And that red has expanded across western North Carolina, kind of northern Georgia.
Right.
And now it's in McMinn and Monroe County like it was last week, but it's in the mountains.
I know, it's in the Smoky Mountains, part of it.
Yeah, all the way from Monroe to Blount to severe. Even in Cocke County, we have now severe drought, or I should say extreme drought, in the mountains, which we definitely do not like to see.
Right. Exactly. So there's a close-up examination. I mean, and simply put, folks, the longer we go without substantial rainfall, and even though we had a decent rainfall event, one event so far this month over the Easter weekend, that was it. I mean, it was a good rain, but it came and went. And then when we get the winds, the heat, evaporation rates are high, everything dries out. So simply put, we are still in a prolonged drought, and it's probably going to take a while to get out of it.
And on top of that, this is the time of year where the plants are leafing out. So they're taking more moisture out of the ground as well. So that dries the soil out even that much faster.
That's a great
because
point.
Not only do we have very low humidity, so the dry air is evaporating everything out, but now whatever was there is disappearing into the roots of these plants.
The plants are using it. They need it.
Yeah. I mean, we've only had to mow our yard one time so far this year at our house.
Yeah.
Now, it's full of weeds, but you get the idea that, it stunted the growth of the grass in our yard because of the lack of rainfall that we've had. And we're pursuing stories with farmers around the region who are seeing similar results. They put their crops in the ground at the time of year they should.
Right.
And unfortunately, that's stunting the growth of the beginning of the crops and is going to create unhealthy crops down the road because we don't have enough water to get them going right now.
Right. There was just enough water initially to have everything green up. It's always beautiful in early spring, right? Everything's green. But unfortunately, it's like that supply has been used up. And like you said, it gets to a halting point, and then they're waiting on more rain. The plants, the ground, and everything.
Well, and temperatures play a big role in this, too, because in March, we had one of the warmest Marches on record.
Right.
And so many 80-degree days in March, which is very unusual.
Right.
And then now in April, we've had a very long stretch of 80-degree days.
Yes.
And so the unfortunate part about those really warm temperatures is they triggered some of the plants to bloom 2 weeks early.
Oh my gosh, everything's running early, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So they're ahead of schedule on what they should be doing, and they don't have any moisture to work with. Speaking of not having moisture to work with.
Right.
Robin and I got to sit down with folks from the Tennessee Valley Authority. For folks who don't know, the Tennessee Valley Authority manages 41,000 square miles of rivers and tributaries along the Tennessee River. That extends from here in Knoxville all the way down through northern Alabama and up into western Tennessee, West Tennessee, and eventually joins the Mississippi River.
Right.
It involves 7 states. We've got a lot of space to manage. And this is an integrated system. So essentially what's happening here is affecting folks downstream and vice versa.
Right.
So I asked the general manager of the River Forecast Center, his name's James Everett, how they work to find a balance on the water up and down the river system.
We manage the system, like Scott said, in an integrated manner. So we're balancing competing demands. When we get a lot of rainfall, a lot of times the focus is on flood control. Obviously, that's not the situation right now. So our focus shifts to things like water supply. Are these reservoirs have enough water in storage that we can meet long-term water supply issues? And we certainly do at our reservoirs. That's one of the great benefits of the TVA system. While lake levels may not be as high as we'd like them to be right now, there is still a lot of water in them to support these other purposes. Things like navigation, minimum flows for the environment, flows for folks that like to go trout fishing. So these are all the different things that during a drought, we kind of shift that focus away from flood control and are looking at some of these other objectives to make sure there's enough water in the system.
So essentially, they've got some tough decisions to make, right?
Yeah, they do. They're trying to please and satisfy a lot of different interests.
Yeah, and
it's
needs.
It's a tough job.
And needs.
Exactly.
Yeah, definitely. And I mean, they have such a huge system across the entire Tennessee River. And so the challenge in the drought is getting the lakes up to summer pool.
Right.
Now, in some of the smaller reservoirs, you don't notice it as much because the lakes don't have as much of a variation between their full summer pool and their low winter pool.
Right.
But places like Douglas Lake
have
more than a 40-foot temperature range, 40-foot elevation range between where they should be in the winter and where they should be in the summer.
Right.
Also, if you go to TVA's website, they have an operating guide. It's a flood curve. And so most of the reservoirs along the river system are still within the flood guide.
Right.
There's a handful of them that are a little bit below where they would like them to be this time of year. But what's interesting is I was looking at Douglas Lake, and they actually started filling Douglas Lake back in March. They were well ahead of their curve by like 6 feet.
Yeah.
And I was like, that's suspicious. I wonder why they're doing that. And so I asked James about that, and he was like, well, we saw the drought coming, and so we were able to adapt.
Each week we go with less than adequate or normal rainfall is going to be even harder to catch up. I mentioned runoff, so we track runoff. So as air temperatures get hotter, leaves have already greened out, and vegetation is green and lush, we're going to lose a lot of rainfall due to natural processes. We just don't get the same amount of runoff in the summer months as we would in the winter because of dormant vegetation and things like that. So we're going to need well above normal rainfall. Think 4 to 5, 6 inches per month to try and catch us back up, and we're just not seeing those totals.
So essentially, he was kind of saying, we need rain.
Yes.
And I was like, I know, but we don't have the control over that, unfortunately. But it would be great if we could start not just getting what we're supposed to be getting, but maybe even getting a surplus.
Yeah. So here we go. All right, right down. So what we need is 4, 5, 6 inches of rain for about the next 3 months. Okay.
No problem.
Yeah, no
Let's
problem.
Turn that note in. Let's go. Yeah. Send it.
It's funny. I always love what they said at TV. They do a great job. It said, as meteorologists, you're responsible for predicting the water that falls from the cloud to the ground. Once it hits the ground, we take over.
Yes.
I love how they talk about it. But they do such a great job, and it is a challenging job at times, as you can imagine, folks, when we're in drought conditions, and it's not ideal. So, we're all hoping for a pattern change where we start to get more of a balanced pattern in time.
Yeah, and he also was mentioning runoff because in the winter, it's all about the flood storage. There's more runoff because the plants are dormant and the ground is hard because it's cold.
Right.
But in the summertime, the plants are not dormant.
Right.
So the rain that falls and it starts to soak into the ground, the plants are like, I will take that, thank you. And they don't get the runoff into the lakes. So we may actually see several rounds of heavier rain, and you might not notice your lake levels rising because now the plants have it.
Yes.
And then the next step down the road is for the runoff to actually reach the lakes and the reservoirs.
So the key here is we don't need July is our wettest month of the year on average. We'll get it. We need the rain now.
Oh yeah.
May will be critical to get that much needed rain into part of June before we get into there, because then everything shifts and then you're going into a different mode later in the summer. So hopefully, yes, these next couple of months, hopefully we'll start to see better rain chances.
Well, even the latest 6 to 10 day outlook is promising.
Okay.
Because we've been talking about how we needed a pattern change.
Yes.
And we do have a little bit of a pattern change coming in the standpoint of the new outlooks show maybe a more active pattern.
Hey, I see some green, Cass.
I see some darker green.
I see some darker green.
This is good.
Yes.
So this would be next week.
Right.
That we would see this, probably later, more so in the week. We're still seeing that darker green to our west, and that has been the pattern.
Yes.
It's been wet. It's been active for West Tennessee and areas further to the west.
Right.
But when I'm not on camera, folks, I don't think realize how much hand gesturing I do. And then we come on camera and I'm all like, wow.
Hey, Daniel, nice boxes, by the way.
Looks great.
Perfect. Look at
Hey,
that.
thank
didn't even
you.
look over. It
I
looks
wanted
like
to see the hand motions.
The hand motion, whoa, going on. So it has been.
See right there. There we go. We're seeing
Right
that
there.
green. That darker green, that did shift. I think that's the update.
Yeah,
Coming
it may
on
have
the
shifted in
plateau.
our direction. So
Yeah.
that would be good news if we could just start getting some regular rain events. And by regular, I don't just mean like, oh, average. I mean just periodic
Yes.
and on a regular interval rather than going 2 weeks at a time with no rain.
Exactly. And we've talked before, and certainly don't say this too loosely or lightly. Sometimes to get out of a drought, sometimes, we used to say you even take a little bit of flooding. We're not talking about we don't want any serious flooding. Obviously, you don't want to go swing the pendulum from one, but just even above average
Would be good.
rainfall. Yeah, we take
And
average.
that's what that green means.
Exactly. Yeah. That's exactly what that means. Good point, Cass.
Yeah. So that green actually isn't just that it's going to rain.
Yeah, it's going to rain. Maybe get a little bit more.
We're just so hopeful at this point.
It's going to rain.
Yay, it's going to rain. That actually means above average
does mean-
rainfall.
that's right.
Which would be wonderful if we could catch back up. And I was looking back at the records. The last time we had a month with a surplus
Yes.
was October. And you pointed out,
Of all months.
Yeah, and Todd pointed out that by the averages, October is our driest month of the year. So woohoo!
Of course, yeah.
We had a small surplus, like literally 0.2 of an inch in the driest month of the year.
Oh my goodness! Hey, I know we're going to wrap this up in a moment, and but do we have a
I
quick
can get ahead to that.
second to talking about a little bit of a pattern change? We need the rain. Here it comes. You can see this coming. We've been so warm in March and April. We've had a few cool snaps. It looks like another little cool snap coming our way early next week.
Yeah, folks who have agricultural interests may be interested in this. Our average last frost is April 14th.
Right.
But
Just past
that's
that.
an average. That's an average. So it does look like maybe Monday morning, possibly Tuesday morning next week.
Yeah.
There could be some patchy frost. Models are still trying to figure out how deep that trough gets,
Right,
how much
right.
that cold air actually gets here, if it's going to be too dry for frost to form,
Yeah.
because we have seen that.
Right. Right.
but
So
yeah.
got to look at the dew point and the wind. All those will
Yeah.
play a role, but there's potential.
Yep.
It's kind of some chilly air. And boy, we're going to need jackets, at least in the
Yes.
evenings and more. I mean, not right now, but we're going to need jackets again for maybe the evenings and mornings, which I can't wait. I love a cool spring day with some sunshine. And let spring be spring, let April be April, because we know we got more of the heat to come in the future months.
And I think that's a good note to wrap up on today.
Awesome.
So thank you so much to everybody for joining us for this week's 10 Weather Chat. And hopefully by next week when we do this, we'll have some good news with maybe some rain pitter-pattering on the roof. Let's
Exactly.
keep our fingers
Maybe
crossed.
wear a rain poncho in here or something.
Just for good measure.
All right. Thank you, Cass. Thanks for joining us, folks.